Greetings programs. Today's video originally was going to be a two-part segment. Part 1 was going to be me showing off my Blu-ray collection, and part 2 was going to be a personal debate of mine, pros and cons between physical media and digital media. I will not be including streaming services because I do not particularly like streaming services. Some are good. For Disney Plus, for example, those catalogs are not going to go away. However, sometimes Netflix, they lose rights and films from their catalog disappear. So I'll not be including those in this discussion vid. So here are my philosophies for popular culture in the 21st century. Personally, when it comes to music, I use Apple Music. I pay $10 a month. If you don't want to pay $10 a month, you can use Spotify free. But I personally find it, as a consumer, more friendly for my wallet if I have, which I do, over 29,000 songs in my library. And it's like $1, say, a piece. I think it's up to $1.29 in some instances. But anyways, new albums can be $10. And if I have 29,000 songs that I like, obviously I don't listen to all of them, but I have 29,000 songs. And if that's equating to be at least $1 a piece, that's 29 grand. Well, plus tax, I think. So it's much easier for me to stream on my wallet than to own and buy every single digital piece. So for music, I stream music. For novels, I choose to have a physical copy in my hands versus an ebook version or a Kindle. Pretty much the biggest reason is blue light kills your eyes. I work over 8 hours a day on a computer, and especially if you go home, try to talk to people on your phone. Phone has blue light. Of course, there are instances where you can have a non-blue light filter. You can have a yellow light instead, but less light in my eyes, the better. So I choose to have a physical book. I also like having books on a bookcase or bookshelf. So that's a personal thing of mine. I can understand if you like physical movies and like having a collection on a bookcase. Perfectly fine with that. However, books are a little bit different than every other version of popular culture because they've been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. Home video has only been around for 43. Now into video games. This is actually quite interesting. So in 2015, I switched into PC gaming. I built a desktop rig. I sold off all my console games, PS3, PS2, and you can rebuy the PS3 games on PC on Steam. They're PC counterpart versions. And for the older retro games, I actually emulate them. So there's a PS2 emulator that can actually upscale within the game HD, maybe even up to 4Res in some instances. And there's an emulator called Dolphin for GameCube that I personally use when I create my 2 NHL Hits games that I create every season. They can upscale to 4K, and I can also use custom textures and pretty much redo the whole game. And for the most part, digital for PC gaming is absolutely incredible. And if you look at the landscape of gaming in general, now on console games for Xbox One, a disc is no longer read off of, it's just an install. I believe PS4 is the same way. And the disc is only kept around for the purpose of verifying that you still own the game versus buying it digitally. There's also an Xbox One that is a driveless system. It doesn't have a drive in it at all. You can buy, I believe, a cheaper option of $100 less, I believe. But it just seems that everything is starting to go to digital. That's not a book. And PC gamers, I have not heard once. Since 2015 I switched over. Even probably before that it happened a little bit, but not once since 2015 have I heard gamers saying if it's digital then you don't own it and it can be taken from you at any time. That's just not true. Even when Ultraviolet went under, you had a grace period of at least a couple weeks to maybe like a month or so to switch over to Vudu, and so that's what I did. I linked my library and all my movies moved over. So it's kind of a fallacy. My digital collection didn't go anywhere, and neither is digital pop culture. Which brings us to movies, which is a tough decision to make, but here are the pros and cons of both physical media and digital copies. First and foremost, why do home movies exist? The answer is demand. Films for the longest time were solely shown in theaters or Nickelodeons, the birthplace of films. But once television was invented, films started to broadcast on networks from time to time, and networks paid a hefty price for it. Then a demand crept up in the 1970s for people to not only watch films on their TV, but to keep them as well. So birthed what we have today, home video. Betamax and VHS were born. As time progressed, people wanted these things from movies as quality got better and better. The ability to own. The ability to watch anytime. For it to be small, and for it to be at least decent quality. Which brings us to our first topic of discussion when comparing physical and digital media in 2020. Quality. So yes, physical wins this round, however it does not blow digital out of the water. 4K Apple TVs produce very good HD copies at around 15 megabytes a second, and their 4K movie versions rival Blu-ray quality at roughly 25. I clocked it at anywhere from 20 to 49 reports of. Personally, I have not experienced this yet. I've just been watching it on a 4K monitor on my MacBook Pro with Apple TV's app. Streaming places like Netflix are notorious for having artifacts and banding, but these places use a lower bitrate, and I'm purposefully trying to look and see if there's any the shadows or dark scenes of Rise of the Skywalker on HD or even 4K Spring Breakers. All I'm seeing is detail and film grain, and I am not seeing any artifacts or compression even at these lower bit rates compared to physical media. Digital has come a long way since its inception and will get better and better as internet becomes faster and more reliable as time progresses. If you look at cell phone coverage, could you imagine your iPhone today being as fast as your computer speeds when you're not at home on LTE? It's pretty much neck and neck now. 10 years ago, it might have took a while to load a web page on your smartphone. Now, not so much. 5 years ago or so, iTunes digital copies had a look of maybe 5 megabytes a second for their HD bitrate. Now it's tripled that. Who's to say they won't have 20 or 25 megabytes in 5 years' time, or 40 megabytes a second or more 4K streams for your digital copies? Vincent Toe, I'm sorry if you got your name wrong, bro, over at HD TV Test did a comparison of the Apple 4K TV and a 4K disc and concluded when only viewed up close, not at a normal viewing angle, that you'll see a crisp difference between the digital and physical medias. But if you're a stickler, of course, for the best quality possible, then yes, physical 4K is your best bet. However, not all 4K discs are true 4K. Some films, like blockbusters nowadays, are delivered at 2K because the CG scene effects are rendered out at 2K because it's cheaper for the houses to do that than, say, work at 4K and render it that way to make their digital graphics. So whether or not you want to open up your wallet and pay more money for a slightly sharper image is up to you, which brings us to our next point, price. Films on iTunes range anywhere from, say, $5 to a maximum of $20. Non-exclusive UHD physical discs are an MSRP of $30. It's more cost to the studio to produce a disc, a case, hire someone for the artwork, design of the inserts, and travel of the disc, versus digital. They just hand off a copy of the film right into the hands of the distributor, iTunes, Vudu, etc. Obviously, digital is also more environmentally friendly, but I did not include that in the pros and cons list. But worth noting if you're into that sort of thing. Menus and previews. Blu-ray movies almost never play when you put the film in a drive. They play roughly 8 previews and you have to click the skip button on your remote every time to play the film. How lovely for $30 to spend on each movie to not have it do what you want it to do. Speed also plays a factor into skimming through certain areas when it comes to digital, which is monstrously beneficial to someone like myself, who needs to go back and play segments, etc., to write a critical essay about films. Physical, you have to skip the disc, and the disc has to load it up, and the dial around it is just so much slower in this regard. Can be damaged. Obviously, digital cannot, physical can. House fire, scratches, children. If you have children, you know what I'm talking about. Stepping on the case breaking. The cases are very flimsy nowadays, unfortunately. There's an argument from physical people that say, like, oh, what if you get locked out of your account? Or what if you forget your password? Like, you can always restore your account. You can always restore your password. Even if you have Apple, you can go to the Apple store. Apple are like the nicest people. They will restore your account. You cannot lose your digital movies this way. This is a huge one. So digital, for the most part, has a lot more unreleased films than physical media. Movies like Heat are available on 4K on iTunes right now, but not available on UHD disc. I assume it'll come eventually. But there are other films like, say, Spring Breakers, Florida Project, Green Room, etc. They're on 4K on iTunes and most likely will never see the day of a UHD disc. The Beach is in HD on iTunes, but never had a Blu-ray release. We're on the next gen of physical media now, UHD, and the film skipped an entire format to be released on. That's super sad because the movie made over $100 million profit, not $100 million total, $100 million profit at the box office. Unfortunately, the trend seems to go like this for physical media sales. The biggest ones are superhero films, Disney films, and action films, aka big time movers. It's happening in the music industry as well. CDs are massively dying, but if Taylor Swift comes out with an album, it sells at least 500,000 copies guaranteed on CD. The OC is not available on Blu-ray. The DVD of the show's first season is in 4:3 format and of course 480p. The iTunes version has season 1 in 1080p HD widescreen. Digital has a huge advantage here. So which one's sales are down? Which one is dying? Unfortunately, physical media is dying. DVD sales have dropped 86% the past 13 years according to CNBC. Total physical media sales the past 5 years have been cut in half according to Ars Technica. According to FlatPanelsHD.com, previous generations of disc players sold in excess of 4 times as many units per year as did UHD Blu-ray. Samsung stopped making Blu-ray players in February 2019 with their last model launch from 2017. They were the first company to make a 4K UHD player and also the first company to end 3D TV production before others did. People have just not adopted Blu-ray and UHD like they should have because they are superior quality formats. However, the majority prefers the cheaper option. Forbes showed that the aging low-definition DVD format still accounts for 57.9% of physical media sales. And guess what 4K UHD discs are? 5.3%. People want the lower price over the higher quality, which is exactly how VHS beat out Beta in the 80s. There's an argument that, well, physical media will never die, which I would never say the word never. But yes, for now it is true, because say print journalism is around still. However, it's in very, very, very small capacities, with cuts unfortunately happening all the time. A new generation of folks means new formats. It's exciting because we love to shop and have fresh things. Unfortunately, it can be exhausting. Betamax, VHS, Laserdisc, DVD, HD DVD, Blu-ray, UHD, and of course streaming and digital copies. And it seems the exhaustion is hitting a breaking point in society. Movies themselves will never die out. Things just evolve. Landlines to cell phones, print media to social media, film to digital. Which is easier for convenience, travel, and or moving? It's obviously digital. It's much easier to travel with a digital library of films than with bringing along all your physical copies to your mom's house for Christmas or moving. It's more of a pain in the neck to kind of pack them up and also more expensive as well. It's also convenient to give copies of your movie to your friends or watch a stream party like I just did with Zack Snyder in Batman v Superman. I had a digital copy from iTunes playing in the corner at a low volume, synced up with him talking at the same time. He was kind of like, watching it as I was watching him. You cannot do this on the same screen on, say, physical media. So it would have been a lot more difficult to kind of just watch them both at the same time on 2 different screens. Owned forever. I put yes, actually, for both of these and with an asterisk over both. So this one is interesting for a few reasons. Yes, with physical, you do own it forever. But will you be able to play it forever? TVs change. Players change. Cords change. Cords went from RCA to HDMI. Are there any VHS players that have HDMI cords? My dad's buddy has a DVD player. He loves watching his DVDs. My buddy bought his family a new 4K TV a few weeks ago and I helped him set it up. His dad wanted me to hook up his DVD player to the new TV, but it only had RCA cords. You couldn't do it. Also, what if your physical media player dies and they don't make them anymore? What if they're all sold out everywhere if they do make them? What if there are no repair shops around to fix them? There are so many factors to this that I put the asterisk next to yes to own forever because you may not be able to play them forever. However, that doesn't mean that digital is automatically victorious this round. A viral story occurred a few years ago when a man moved from Australia to Canada with a whopping 3 of his films from his iTunes library for some reason were locked to the region of Australia and did not show up in his library in Canada anymore, even though he paid for them in Australia. That really sucks. Nonetheless, the exact same thing happens to someone if they move from Australia to Canada with Blu-rays. Blu-ray players, for the most part, are region locked. That means if you move from one region of the world to another, you have to either A, rebuy the film, or B, buy a region-free player to play all the movies. So there are rules when it comes to films no matter the format. If anything, digital might last longer because Amazon, Google, Apple, Disney, who owns movies anywhere, aren't going anywhere in your lifetime, and physical media changes, it seems, every 20 years or so. And I wanted to address another fallacy, DRM. So you buy a film digitally on iTunes and it's only compatible with Apple products. Well, you can't just open up the file and play it with any program on your computer. Duh. Try putting an HD DVD in a Blu-ray player or a Blu-ray in a DVD player. See if it works. It's analogous. There's a psychological notion, a sensory experience against digital because for years people have purchased physical copies in stores, have liked feeling it in their hands, sensing that it's physically tangible, it's real. The digital copies emerged, and for some reason people's brains associate cloud-based or digital purchases as non-reality because of lack of a physical experience. Exclusive artwork, so this is actually pretty cool. If you're really into collecting, say, exclusive posters, Shout Factory will come out with that, with a Blu-ray release. Or if you're into steelbooks, Best Buy, for the most part, has a bunch of exclusive steelbooks. Entices people to buy one version of a film over another. Digital really doesn't have any of these perks, so if you're interested in those sorts of things, that's a huge bonus for you. Can be stolen, obviously physical yes, digital no. Special features. So this is a big one if you're into special features like, oh, the process was hard. Oh, I love the film. Physical wins this round because they definitely include all these special features. However, digital is catching up, and it seems that all new releases include them. Something that gives me personal joy is when they include extended versions for the most part when you buy them, just like their physical counterpart. I can watch Alien Special Edition just like on my Blu-ray disc. Internet data caps. So this is a big one. There are some a-hole ISPs that have data caps for people that download lots of games or stream movies. They kind of try to nickel and dime the consumer. I guess akin to maybe City Hall saying, oh, you're using too much water, we're just going to tap it off for the month. Not all ISPs have this, but it is worth noting. I will not be including the what if the internet goes down argument because, like, when is your internet ever down? For me, it's when the power is out. So if the power is out, you can't watch your physical media anyway. So if you really want to go that route, I could say, well, I can just pull out my phone, turn off Wi-Fi, and connect to the LTE, and on the cloud, I can stream a movie right on my phone. So if anyone wants to go that route, digital is better. Although the biggest argument against digital here is that if you're in an area without internet, like if you're on a farm or deployed overseas, that you have access to films to watch on your downtime. That is the biggest takeaway that nobody talks about. Can resell. So yeah, you can't resell digital if you already purchased it on, say, iTunes. You can sell physical, even though they might be at rock bottom prices. So there is the final scorecard. You can look at the pros and cons yourself and figure out with your own circumstances what you think is the best, because you're going to have a bunch of people telling you that physical media is the best. Well, that's not going to be the best for someone that, say, is a pilot that travels a lot and maybe they like watching films between flying planes. There's absolutely nothing wrong with solely owning physical media or having a digital library. For many years throughout popular culture, we've had many containers. The main purpose is the anecdote, not the container. If you are a physical media person and you do not want physical media to die, keep fighting the good fight and keep buying your discs. I used to be a huge advocate of physical media, but I'm showing off my Blu-rays right now as kind of a eulogy because I believe I'm seeing the writing on the wall, the stats are there, and I may be selling my physical media collection and going the route of buying films on iTunes in 4K. I'm just sick of buying, selling physical copies the rest of my life, taking a toll on my wallet, time, and shelf space. Personal predictions, I don't think people are going to be adaptive to 8K TVs. The difference already is not that discernible between 4K and 8K, but people aren't really into 4K right now. Not TVs, but physical media. I believe that 4K UHD physical discs, this is the end of the line for movies on physical media. Nobody, I don't think, is going to be buying 8K, especially if the digital equivalent to a 35mm film sells roughly 4K. There's really no need for 8K on physical media. I don't think physical media will completely die. I think small houses like Criterion will continue to release old films on Blu-ray, and places like Disney will continue to release their big action films or Marvel films. However, I could see Disney pulling the plug on physical completely because it's a waste of their time, resources, and money and putting it all into Disney Plus or just digital purchases. And if you look at even small boutique houses like Criterion that make discs, they're switching over to a streaming service. They have their own, I think it's $12 a month, over 1,000 titles. So, mind you, these smaller places might stop doing that stuff also because of manufacturer costs. So, 4K media is great. 4K TVs is great. Movies are great. Anything beyond 4K, I believe, is unnecessary. 4K is already sharp and detailed. Film doesn't necessarily need to look better than it already is. How good do you need a film to look? So the question is, how do you want to watch that 4K content? So whether you agree or disagree, we all love films, and if the world is changing, we have to change too. So thank you very much, Godspeed. And now the script is over, and I want to go a little bit ad-lib. Don't know if I can show it off. I have Jaws. This was my last purchase on physical media. A lot of people don't like this cover, random, but a lot of people don't like this cover. I actually like this cover. I think it's kind of cool, especially it's like lenticular or whatever, hologram, fake, whatever. And a lot of people, beat and complain about it. But anyway, I don't know. It sounds weird. Like I have a lot of cool movies up here. Like some of these are pretty rare. Like the Donnie Darko Steelbook, William Friedkin signed Blu-ray cover. I have Blade Runner 2049 UK Steelbook exclusive. But out of all of those, I would probably pick, just to keep one of them, this Jaws. Jaws was like my third favorite film as a kid. Still one of my favorites of all time. The first two were obviously Jurassic Park and Lost World Jurassic Park, but I don't know if this, for some reason, if I had to sell all my physical media, I only had to keep one, I would keep this one. Not just because it's the last one I possibly purchased, but I don't know. Something about it. It's a very bittersweet, I guess, in a way, but also sad video that I might be getting rid of all these dudes. And what am I going to put in these empty spaces? Well, I'm probably going to put more books. So yeah, hope you had a great one. If you're going to leave a comment down below, please do not attack each other. It's important to have a civil adult discourse and conversation. So if I see people saying that, oh, they're attacking one another's sides, digital or physical, please don't. I'm just gonna give you the ban hammer. The future is coming, my friends. So yeah, it's really unfortunate, but I might do it. Anyways, take care. Bye.